Hello, I'm Esperanza Hope, and today I'm going to talk about climate change, the global stocktake, and the new challenges for this year's negotiation in the United Nations Climate Change Conference. The global stocktake is a process contained in the Paris Agreement, where countries and stakeholders will revise periodically the progress made towards meeting the goals of the agreement and identifying key challenges and the approaches needed to continue working on the climate change mitigation and all the issues related to this. So the first global stocktake is taking place this year in COP28. This addresses the following key ideas. First, mitigation, which is the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Second, adaptation, which is the process of countries and societies, an ecosystem, naturally adapting to this new world and changes caused by climate change. Third, losses and damages, which assesses the actions needed to rehabilitate and rebuild what is needed caused by the impact of climate change. And lastly, the means of implementation to continue to work, which includes financing, technology, support, etc. The global stocktake contains three phases. First, the collection of information and preparation. Second, the technical assessment of this information. And third, the assessment of the results, which will result in a political declaration or message which conveys which information was collected, the assessment of it, and what this means for the global scenario, and which will be the following steps to take to continue working. We are currently in phase 3 of the stocktake. What I've identified are these challenges. So first, we need to identify the key challenges to take the following years. Second, increase funding and mechanisms to obtain it, which has led to discussions of making developing countries contribute, and I will get to that later. Third, emphasize the importance of adaptation and putting a bigger focus on it for the following actions. Fourth, include the topic of losses and damages. This is very important for our society, which is already being impacted by climate change. And fifth, revise the role of technology and human rights in the current discussions as key elements in the fight against climate change. They are transversal to every topic. Chile's position this year includes several matters of discussion. So first, we need to make efforts to gather more support and funding to effectively combat climate change in our society and to tackle the damages made by it. It is very important this year that we focus on the responsibility of developed countries, since they are in the best conditions to contribute to mitigation, adaptation, and assessment of losses and damages. Burden sharing is another important element, since it needs to be recognized which countries are most responsible for emissions and have them make more efforts to reduce them, as it is the case of countries like China and India, which have no determined responsibility to lower emissions, although they have the highest registers of them. It is also very important that we all focus towards meeting the goal of lowering greenhouse emissions to 1.5 degrees Celsius. It is also key to gather more funding, since what we currently have is not enough to tackle our environmental problems, and it is also essential to achieve the possibility of all developing countries having access to funding, since nowadays most of the funding goes to Africa, and Latin America needs way more support. Another important topic is the definition of climate financing, since the concept is currently very much in the dark. We also have the new collective goal for climate funding to make it trillions instead of 100 billion per year. Lastly, it is very important to keep our stand on funding. It is currently being discussed, as I said before, that developing countries need to start contributing financially to combat climate change. But our country does not have enough resources to make this happen. As a developing country, we also have very urgent social issues and economic issues. To conclude, Chile so far has made an incredible effort towards reducing emissions, like the goal of being carbon neutral by 2050. So this effort needs to be recognized by the rest of the world. It deserves to be recognized. We need support to continue our label. I am certain that by sticking to our allies and keeping an open mind, we can advance more in the fight against climate change.